Clickbait. Under what conditions does it become appropriate to appropriate historical violence into fiction? How long after mass casualty events should one wait before utilizing it in their poetry or paintings or film?
Hey, what are you guys doing?
Just get the fuck out of here and don't come back. So maybe shit's going on.
What are you doing?
To whom is our use of history accountable? The victims? Their families? The public? I think these questions are muddied by a prevailing idea of cinema as entertainment. This notion that going to the movies should be fun, cathartic, easy. Dedicated cinephiles like lovers of music or the novel understand that some great works require work in order to be appreciated and digested. What puts a great deal of people off, I think, is the assumption that this work is a matter of intellect and not merely a project of attention. Difficult art asks us to consider what we attend to, in art and in life, and the values that we place consciously or otherwise on the function of our attention. Speaking of his 2003 film Elephant, which was inspired at least in part by the 1999 Columbine massacre, Gus Van Sant refers to its use value, its function not as a kind of entertainment, but a form of mental activity, a thinking machine, a kaleidoscope, a Rorschach test. Elephant is in the genre of slow cinema, a film form that utilizes boredom and patience. The anxiety these films provoke is that same anxiety that convinces us to listen to something while we do housework, or that we need to watch YouTube while we eat our lunch. A fundamentally capitalist ethos of production and productivity, an aversion to dead or empty time, all but ingrained in our embodiment and psychochemistry. What stands out for me the most when I watch these children walking from PE to classrooms to the library or cafeteria is one facet of adolescence we all seem so swiftly to forget as we get old, that of children's peculiar relationship to time. The amount of time a child has experienced and in turn their very relation to and conception of time is different to that of an adult. A day, a week, a year, these things change in their meaning. They only have meaning in the context of a contingent subjectivity. I'm here reminded of Matt Stone's reflections on the pressure of high school in Michael Moore's, let's call it questionable documentary, Bowling for Columbine, which I've seen Van Sant cite in various places.
Being in 6th grade, and I had to take the math test to get into honors math in 7th grade. And they were like, don't screw this up, because if you screw this up, you won't get into honors math in 7th grade. And of course, if you don't get into honors math in 7th grade, you won't get into honors math in 8th grade, and then in not 9th grade, and not 10th grade, 11th grade, and then you'll just die poor and lonely. And that's it. You know what I mean? It's like, you believe in high school and and a lot of it's kids, but the teachers and counselors and principals don't help things. They scare you into conforming and doing good in school by saying, if you're a loser now, you're going to be a loser forever. So that.
When we consider films about mass murder, especially those inspired by real events, we have this problem of infamy. Making multi-million-dollar artifacts about horrendous people or abhorrent crimes, some will argue, tacitly exonerates and proliferates. Infamy, after all, is almost always a core motivating factor in mass violence.
The Public Columbine Primary School this morning, there was 13 children dead at the moment, 2 adults, and a number of children in the hospital.
And while Britain mourned the deaths of the innocent, it also struggled to find someone or something to blame for what had happened. The man who ran amok in the school gymnasium was well known to police and locals. A misfit, a loner, an oddball, a weirdo. Just some of the descriptions now emerging. He was mistrusted for his obsession with young boys, and with guns.
Evil visited us yesterday, and we don't know why. We don't understand it, and I guess we never will.
I think the reason that attention is so important when thinking about mass murder in particular has to do with the ways in which events like mass shootings already function in public discourse and in our economies of attention. The repeated retreading and recapitulation of their facts serves non-fiction media industries remarkably well. Who, after all, is happier than the newsroom when tragedy strikes? What are the limitations of the journalistic form? Put differently, what becomes open to interrogation or discussion in an unconstrained narrative aesthetic? It's useful here to press upon Aristotle's Poetics. He wrote about this exact divide in albeit slightly different terms, those of the historian and the poet. The difference between the historian and the poet is not merely a matter of textual construction. One has fancy aesthetics, maybe rhyme and metre, while the other is expressed plainly and matter of fact. No, for Aristotle, the historian's job is to tell of things that have happened, whilst the poet speaks on things that might. Now, quoting Aristotle, this is why the writing of poetry is a more philosophical activity, and one to be taken more seriously than the writing of history. For poetry tells of universals, history, the particulars. Unlike Elephant, Justin Kurzel's 2021 film Nitram is more heavily committed to historical continuity. The film primes us to think about its historicizing mode in its opening sequence, which deploys footage of the real, actual historic shooter from when he was a young boy, filmed by a local TV crew in a children's burn ward. Rather than attempting to blur the line between fact and fiction, I would argue Kurzel here solidifies his appropriative project.
I wanted to see if the wick went quick, so I lit it and it went fast, and I tried to make it go out, but I couldn't, and I broke the stick trying to get out, but I couldn't, and it made a hole through my jeans.
You'll be in here for a while longer, won't you?
Yeah, about a week.
Do you think you'll be playing with firecrackers anymore?
Yes.
Don't you think you've learned a lesson from this?
Yes, but I'm still playing with it.
I reread the Odyssey last night.
Monsieur Procoche a relu Homère.
And I finally found something I've been looking for a long, long time.
Il a trouvé dedans quelque chose qu'il cherchait depuis longtemps.
Something that's just as indispensable to the movies as it is to real life.
Quelque chose indispensable au cinéma et à la vie.
Poetry.
La poésie.